Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to this Learning Summit. We are excited at ViGEO International Consulting. My name is Rob Smythe. I'm the director for ViGEO, and we haven't had an exciting week. A number of you are still joining, but many of you already know that we've had this creative writing contest for blogging. We've had poster making contest. We had the Freedom Live quiz, which happened the day before Independence Day. We had an online treasure hunt. We had a career counseling webinar, and today we're doing, as the kind of the finale of this week, as we at ViGEO turn to this Learning Summit. And we're excited for all who are joining us now and will be joining us today as we do this. We at ViGEO are passionate about helping people thrive. That's what ViGEO means. ViGEO means I thrive in Latin. And really, that's what we've been doing these past 2 years. So 2 years ago, I started ViGEO. Davis Abraham, our training head, Emmanuel Tavari, and I were sitting down thinking about what we're going to be doing. So Davis as the training head, Emmanuel as the operations manager, and me as the director, we fully expected that our trainings would be live in front of people, face to face. And it was something that all of us expected. It's something that you would naturally expect. But then COVID hit. And for everyone, it transformed everything. And for us as a company, it transformed everything. Whereas we once were focused on the work we were doing in Lucknow, India, where we are based, we have now been able to spread across India, and we've done trainings with over 4,000 people. So it's really transformed our ability to be able to continue with training, but it's also transformed education in a way that is challenging for people. And I'm sure many of you have felt that, whether you're a student or you're a teacher or you're working in a business. It's been challenging because we can't do things face to face like we once did. Maybe we can do these kinds of webinars and trainings online, but it also brings an added challenge where we can't do things face to face. And so one of the things that we at ViGEO have been trying to do is to help resource you as you have transitioned to the new normal. And as we continue to do education online, and our pursuit has always been to help you thrive as you continue to do your studies or your teaching or your work. And we really focused on those three areas. We helped students as they continue to do education, as they think about doing future education in career counseling. We help with that. If they're thinking about studies and how to study better, especially at home where it's challenging, we've been helping with that. And then with teachers, we've helped with how do you do online education and motivation in a time where sometimes it's difficult to have that. And then with people who are in the professional field, helping as you continue to work as a team and continue to make goals and achieve those goals and be efficient with the time you have as you've worked from home and now are transitioning again to working in the office. And so it's a privilege to do this today, and I'm excited about what we're doing today for this Learning Summit. Well, just to give you a brief introduction for today, we have 3 speakers talking about 3 important topics. The topics that we have are intrinsic motivation. So intrinsic motivation, Dexter Sam is going to be talking to us about that soon. We have another on homeschooling. So if that's something that is new to you, or if you're not quite sure what that is, we're going to be learning more about that soon with our second speaker. And our third speaker will be talking about caring for teens. And all of these are important topics. And all of these are things that all of us can sometimes neglect in our lives. And so if you're thinking about motivation, this is something for people in, whether you're in business or you're a teacher or you're in school and still studying, you need motivation. And so we're going to start with focusing on that. And then with regard to homeschooling, we love the classroom. And at the same time, we know parents, there are challenges now that you have that you didn't have before. And so we want to present as well an idea about homeschooling, not as a competition to the classroom, but as a complement to the classroom. And then third, we're thinking about caring for teens, and especially for parents and for teachers. We want to be able to care even if it's from a distance, care for the students that we have been entrusted with. And then finally, at 6:25 today, we're going to have an exit quiz. So stay with us the whole time. And then at 6:25 to 6:30, there'll be a 5-minute quiz. And that's going to be the only time that it's available where you're going to be able to do a quiz over everything you've learned today and have the possibility of discounts later. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Dexter Sam. He lives in Chennai with his wife and 3-year-old son. He's worked for the last 12 years in the field of education as a teacher, a youth worker, a teacher trainer, a school consultant, and a curriculum designer. So he has a lot of experience in education. And now he works with an NGO called Stir Education. It partners with state governments to strengthen the government school system using an intrinsic motivation approach. And so what he's going to be presenting to you today is something that he's done over and over again, and we're excited for it. So Dexter, over to you, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about motivation right now.
Thank you so much, Rob, and thank you so much, ViGEO. Really exciting to get connected with you all, and really, I think the work you guys are doing is so meaningful, especially in a time like this. And when you mentioned about how COVID has disrupted everything and so much has changed, I could totally resonate with that, and that's why I think the work you all are doing is so interesting. So yeah, I think really good to be here, really good to not see everyone, but be here. And today I'm going to share about this theme of intrinsic motivation. And I think this is quite a vast theme. And I think like what I'll be able to do today is just give you an introduction and maybe get your toes wet in the beach, so to say, right? So to sort of maybe invite you into like finding out more for yourself. So hopefully this is something that you find inspiring and interesting, as I have. Right. So one of the things today we're in this learning summit, and all of us interested in learning. So teachers, school leaders, parents, students, whoever you are, if you're interested in learning, one of the things I've noticed about us in this learning community, right? In this sort of nurturing, like this community of people who all want to learn. One of the things I've noticed about us is that we are we're overly obsessed with behavior. I don't know if you've noticed that, right? Like if you see the like we have in a classroom, we want the child to behave in a certain way, right? We want everything, like the lesson, the 90 minutes or the 60 minutes of the lesson to be planned in a certain way. It should go in a certain way. We are obsessed with behavior, and this really hit me recently, when I was reading this book on parenting, and it's one of the bestsellers. I'll not name it, but like the author, right in the introduction, he kind of makes this point, and he says this is the task of parenting, and these are the two major tasks of parenting. And then he says, number one, it is to encourage good behavior in children. And number two, it is to discourage bad behavior in your children. And I remember reading that and thinking, wow, this is such an impoverished view of parenting, right? Because if you think about it, there is so much happening in a parent-child relationship. I myself have a 3.5-year-old son, and like if you think about it, it's such a close relationship, such a intimate relationship. You share a name, you share a DNA. Your identity is connected, and like so much is together, right? But somehow we reduce that whole relationship into just this behavior modification, and I'm just looking to change your behavior. And I think everything in education, often we get so obsessed with these behaviors, how children behave in a class, how they behave with one another, how they like perform a certain task, how they read, write, all these kind of things. We get very obsessed with these behaviors, right? And one of the things that happens when you get obsessed with behavior is that, you automatically also get obsessed with rewards and punishments, right? So you always get obsessed with, how can I reward this behavior, because we get this assumption, right, that okay, I need to, the way that I change behavior is that I reward good behavior and I punish bad behavior. So then, we get obsessed with, rewarding good behavior and punishing bad behavior, right? And, what I'm here to share, right, is that, this, if you might like in the learning world, I think we've come to some sort of consensus where we say that okay, the maybe it's not good. Corporal punishment is not good. Like we need to not go into corporal punishment, right? And maybe we've also come into some consensus that okay, teachers, parents need to be careful about the words we use. So any kind of punishment that it shouldn't break down a child, right? Those kind of things. But we still have this sort of overall model where we're trying to change the behavior of the child with rewards, punishments, maybe slighter punishments, discipline, whatever we call them, right? But this is what I'm here to share, right? The thing is, this entire model of changing behavior through rewards and punishment is something that almost 40 to 50 years back, a lot of researchers actually like did a lot of research on this, and they said that this is actually an outdated model and it really does not work. And they talked about how rewards and punishments really worked in a time when you're looking for compliance, right? When you have when you have an assembly line, when you have specific work that needs to be done in a specific way, and you're creating children, citizens for that, then it kind of works, right? Rewards and punishments. But in the kind of world we're living in, the COVID disrupted, in the kind of like ambiguous world we're living in, we all, we need people who are very creative, who are critical thinkers, who can adapt to whatever challenges come, and in that kind of situation, these researchers almost 40 to 50 years back, they said that actually rewards and punishments don't really work. Both rewards and punishments don't work, right? And I think one of the really interesting experiments that they did, I'll share that with you. It was done by two Israeli psychologists, and they did it in this early childhood center, where daycare centers, right? Where and they looked at all these children, and they found that there were a lot of children who really liked drawing, right? So they found that in the free time, these children would just start to draw, right? So they isolated these children, they brought them to another place, and they divided them into three groups, right? And so the first group, Group A, they told these children, okay, we want you to draw, and when you draw, once you draw, you will get a certificate, right? And they showed them the certificate. It had like beautiful blue ribbons and all that. So that was Group A. And then Group B, they again asked them to draw, but they didn't tell them anything, right? They didn't talk to them about any reward. They just said, why don't you draw? And then once they had drawn, this group was given a certificate, right? So they were given a reward, but it was unexpected. It was an unexpected reward. So Group A was expected reward, Group B was unexpected reward, and Group C was this group of children who was a no reward group, right? So there was no reward mentioned and there was no reward given. They were just asked to draw, right? So this was the group. They did this little experiment with these young children who liked to draw, right? And then what they did was, after this experiment was done, they gave a break of only 2 weeks, and they came back into that same classroom and they started observing these same children, right? And what they noticed was this, right? The group which had no reward, those children were still drawing in their free time, right? In the free time, they were still drawing, they were doodling, they were enjoying themselves. The one which had an unexpected reward, right? They were also doing the same thing. But they found that this group which had an expected reward, right? Somehow these children no longer wanted to draw, right? So they were just not interested in drawing anymore. And so they looked at this and they said, there's something about this reward that has actually not helped the child. It has actually been damaging. It has not really helped the child. And if you think about it, it's kind of like this, right? Like if you, like when you're growing up, let's say, if your dad comes and tells you need to clean your room, and then you might just clean your room because your dad says so, or you might actually decide to clean your room and really beautifully set it up, right? But suppose if a parent says to the child, clean your room and I will give you 50 rupees for it, right? So then I will clean the room and I'll get 50 rupees for it. But then if tomorrow someone comes and tells me just clean the room, I may not be interested in doing it because I think somehow that I will clean the room for that 50 rupees, right? And otherwise, why should I clean the room? The task itself is not very meaningful for me, right? So I think like what we've somehow done within education and within learning is that because of this obsession we have with rewards and punishment, we've somehow taken the joy, the intrinsic joy out of certain tasks of learning, right? And we've become very good at actually. If you look at a child, when the child is born, the child is beautiful, the child loves exploring. The child is curious, wants to learn, wants to open up a toy and fiddle with it and tinker with it, right? And then by the time this obsession with rewards and punishments, right, and the threats we give, we find that the child is not really that curious anymore, right? Something about the way we have done education is, destroying their love for learning, right? So this should really make us think, right? If you think about it, so the point I want to make, and the point that these researchers made, say 40 to 50 years back with the science of motivation, was that they said what matters more, is not whether some change has happened, right? It's not whether the child has taken up this behavior or that behavior or is doing this or doing that, but it matters if the change is intrinsically motivated. As in, like, if the child finds it valuable in its own right, right? Or a teacher changes their teaching style, but not because somebody else is saying, but because they find it valuable in their own right. So it's more important that the change is intrinsically motivated and not extrinsically motivated, right? So if I was to give you an example, um, if I get my child, if I get my son to read today, if I get my son to just sit in one place and read today, right? And I've controlled his behavior, I've enforced that behavior, and he sits down and reads, right? But in the pursuit of this, if I destroy his long term desire to read, what's the point, right? What have I done, right? Or if I have a classroom full of children, and if I'm able to get them all well behaved and quiet, and if they're reading in the way I want, doing some math in the way I want, but if I've destroyed their long term desire to learn these things, then what's the point of what I've done, right? And so what these researchers said is that they said that if we focus too much on this short term and on behavior control, we can actually end up doing a lot of long term damage, right? So if we have this like excessive focus on, I want my child to write in this way, I want my child to present his essay in this way, or I want my child to solve the problem in this way, or if you're in a school, if you think that I want my teacher to teach in this way, right, or whatever it is, right? If there's a lot of focus on short-term behavior control, what we can do is that we can do considerable long-term damage, because you might lose the intrinsic motivation of that person, right? It could be a child, it could be an adult. So this is why I think like those researchers, 40, 50 years back itself, and this is something that's, been tried out in various fields. They say that it's important that we focus on intrinsic motivation, because the thing that really sets apart a person is not something that is, imposed on them in terms of a reward and a punishment. But what really motivates a person is what comes from within them, right? So what is intrinsic to them. And so they said that, it's important that we focus on these three pillars of intrinsic motivation, right? And so the first pillar is the pillar of autonomy, and that is the freedom to self-direct. I think we'll all know this, like, we are all motivated when we have a certain level of autonomy, right? If we have a certain level of autonomy of, I can do it this way, I can do it that way, I can do it this time or that time, I can do it with this person or that person. When we have that sort of certain amount of autonomy, that a freedom to self-direct, that brings a lot of intrinsic motivation. So the question whether if you're a teacher, you're a parent, in whatever capacity you're doing learning is, do you promote autonomy, or do you actually promote more control? That's something for us to think of, right? Second pillar is mastery, right? And mastery is this desire to get better and better at something that matters, right? So this, this if you look at a child, like who uh, suddenly you'll see children, when they suddenly get engrossed in something and they're just lost. They're unaware of the surroundings. And that's what psychologists call the state of flow, right? Where they're so engrossed in it that they are completely enjoying it. They're getting better and better at something that matters, right? That's the whole pursuit of mastery. And mastery is like a long term, like all through life phenomena, right? But, as teachers and as people in education, I think the question for us is to ask the question, do we create these environments of mastery, where our children get that complete engagement, completely engaged with something that matters to them, right? And they can like slowly start to master, right? Or is it something that, whether it matters to them or not, they still have to do it, right? And it's not something that is defined by them, but defined by us. That's the second pillar of intrinsic motivation, which is mastery. And the third pillar, which brings these two together, is the pillar of purpose, right? The activative energy of the life with purpose, which is, as a child or as any learner, right? You might be in college, you might be whatever age you're in. And even for us, like when we learn, I think like a huge part of it is to know the purpose, right? What is this all about, right? What is this all leading to? Right? So as a learner, for us to be intrinsically motivated, we need some amount of autonomy, freedom to self-direct, right? We need this. We need to be able to get engaged, so we are growing in our mastery, and we need it all to fit into a larger purpose. Right? I think that's the sort of pillars of intrinsic motivation. So if you're a teacher, if you're a parent, or if it's just for yourself, I'd encourage you to think, of, when you work with your child, when you work with your student, do you promote autonomy, mastery, and purpose? And if you do, then what you're doing is you're actually creating a fertile ground for the child's motivation itself to start to bubble up, right? And I think that's what motivation experts say is the way to go, instead of an obsession with controlling short-term behavior, right? And so when we are motivated to learn, I think like something gets unleashed, right? Which is much more powerful than can be unleashed with the fear of punishment or some expectation of a short-term reward, right? So I hope this has just given you a taste of what intrinsic motivation is, and also given you a taste of what it can do. I think in our work in education with government school teachers, we've seen really the power of this, of how an intrinsically motivated teacher can really change a whole classroom, a whole community. Right? So I'm going to stop there, but I'm going to give a shout out to two books. A book called Drive by Daniel Pink and a book called Intrinsic by Sharad Jeevan. I think these are both books on intrinsic motivation. I highly recommend for you to check it out. Thank you so much. Thank you, ViGEO, once more, and all the best for turning to.
Dexter, thank you so much. Dexter, can you put those three motivations back up for us? And I just want to ask whoever is watching on YouTube Live, put down which of those three motivations you want to work on most. So there's the three motivations. You've got autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Dexter, thank you so much for sharing about it. The one thing that was coming to mind as you were sharing is there's an external way to get people to do things, and that's what you were saying about behavior. but there's an internal way that addresses their heart. Is that a good way to see it?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. This, the idea of rewards and punishment is a very external way of controlling the environment and then imposing a certain behavior on people. But it really loses on tapping out on their intrinsic motivation to change.
Yeah, definitely. So if you were listening in about these three things: autonomy, mastery, purpose, please just put it in the chat. Which of these things do you want to work on in your own life, or if you're a teacher, work on in your teaching or in your work? Dexter, thank you so much. This is great stuff. These are things that I want, as you were sharing. These are things I want to work on in the trainings that we do, in my parenting, and in education as well. So Dexter, thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Well, we are continuing on. I know some of you are joining us from various different places. So please, in the chat as well, just put down which region you're from or which city you're coming from, and just share that with us in the YouTube live chat. We would love to know where you're from and get to know you a little bit, even though this is a difficult venue just to get to know you. Please do share where you're from. We're excited for you all to be here with us. I'm going to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is Pranuti Satyadas. Pranuti Satyadas has an MSc in Family Resource Management. She was the HOD of Home Science at Baldwin's Women's College before she began to homeschool her 3 children in 2012. So a huge transition, I'm sure, and I look forward to hearing about that. Since then, she has been instrumental in enabling families to begin their homeschooling journey, which has led to her taking on consultation on a full-time and professional basis. She enjoys spending time baking, singing, and gardening together with her family. So Pranuti, we are excited to have you here. Pranuti, just a quick question. How old are your children?
Hi, Rob, and hi, everyone. Yeah, my kids are right now, my daughter Sanchita is 20. My son Taran is 17, and my youngest son Vivan is 11.
Great. So you've seen them through every stage of education as you've helped with them with homeschooling. Well, we're excited to hear more about this. One thing, we love education. As a company, we want to help students no matter where they are. And for some students, it's difficult because of either they're traveling a lot or their access to education makes it difficult for them to have quality education where they are. And so here is another option in homeschooling that will help in their thriving in their lives. And so Pranuti, we look forward to hearing from you. It's over to you. Thank you.
Thank you again. Thank you so much. Yes, like Dexter said, this is probably a platform where I can give you some basic information about homeschooling, but you're free to connect and ask more questions later. And yes, so let me begin. In 2012, I think we took one of the biggest decisions of our lives as a family. And that's when we decided to homeschool our 3 children. And as expected, we were faced by some extremely weird stares, confused expressions, and questions such as, you're educated, why can't you just work somewhere and earn for your family rather than teaching your children at home? And there were so many different comments that we had to listen to. But we had taken this decision over a period of 2 years, very carefully, prayerfully, and that's how we began our journey. Now, what exactly is homeschooling? A lot of children have, almost all children have been at home learning their school syllabus over the last 1.5 years with the pandemic. Is that homeschooling? Not really. Homeschooling is when the home or the parent is taking onus of educating the child, completely independent of educational institutions. So here, the parent becomes the primary facilitator of the child's education. So I hope that difference is clear. Now, some of the basic questions that might arise is it possible? Yes. Is it allowed in our country? Yes. Does it mess up a child's opportunities for a great future? Not really, not at all. Yes, so let me give you an example to begin with. Jeremy. Jeremy is the first of 5 siblings. He's about 21 years old now. He was homeschooled along with his siblings, 2 brothers and 2 sisters. He grew up exploring and learning different subjects, especially focusing on subjects that captivated his attention, fascinated him, like the intrinsic motivation that we heard about now, and which were also needed for living. They used a range of textbooks, both from the US, UK, and also from our Indian National Board. At grade 10 and 12, he did the relevant and needed examinations and then pursued his dream of getting into design school. With his hard work and of course the grace of God, he is right now completing his Bachelor's of Design at IIT Mumbai and is one of the 10 students who have been given admission into the master's program as well at IIT Mumbai. So stories like this are motivation and give us an answer that yes, homeschooling is possible in India, and it allows you to reach the topmost rung, so to say, academically in our country. Now another question, why would anyone choose homeschooling? Well, there are a lot of reasons, but I'll choose to the top 3 reasons that motivated us to go on this journey. The first one is that our resources can be used most productively. Our resources could be used most productively. Time, energy, and money can be used in the most suitable permutation and combinations to achieve our child's goals. Each child is different. We all know that. Each one's goals are different. Each one's interests are different. And we have a limited amount of resources, right? Whether it's time, whether it's energy or money, we have a limited amount of these resources. And so what is the most suitable way to use these? So here, let me talk about my boys, Taran and Vivan, especially going with Taran, who is my first son. Since the age of 5, we noticed that he had a great passion for football. And because he was homeschooling, we were able to put him into extensive coaching right from then. We had some amazing coaches. He started off with an Argentinian coach, full of passion, of course, as you know, all Argentinians. And from then, he has been playing. He's 17 now. He's even played internationally, and he plays for a good club here in India too. And as I said, he was able to spend, first of all, more time, more energy on this passion. And of course, we were able to use the money that we saved on school fees into some of the special trainings that we were able to give him. So that is one thing. And the second thing is we were able to get tutors of our choice. As the kids grew older and into high school, we required tutors for certain subjects. And one thing that always attracted me was getting tutors who are in the specific field. So when my daughter was studying her psychology at grade 10 and grade 12, she had the privilege of having a tutor who was pursuing her PhD in psychology and was completely in the field, and so was able to teach my daughter to the best of her abilities and in the way in which she could reach out to this child and help her to get a passion for this subject. And we also have another tutor who is a sound engineer and is teaching science, that's physics and maths, to the children. So this was another way that we could use the resources suitably. The second reason is that we could focus on a child's strengths. This has been our motto throughout homeschooling: focus on a child's strength. And when we focus on a child's strengths, we can overcome his weaknesses. But when we focus on his weaknesses, we lose his strengths forever. And, there are so many types of learners, and broadly I can classify them as classical learners and creative learners. Well, my sons fall into the classical learners category, and so they would probably have no hassles getting a decent report card and decent so-called decent marks that are expected by an institution at the end of a year. But not so with my daughter. She is a creative learner. And very often, unfortunately, not putting down any school or educational institution, but it is very difficult for a structured institution to reach out to every child's strengths. And so at the early age, while she was still in school, when we would attend parent-teacher meetings, what we would hear are the areas in which she had to improve on. The areas on which she had to work harder on. We would not hear about the areas she was excelling in, because that platform is a much smaller platform in school, whether it's music, painting, dancing, people skills. These were not areas that would be addressed. So what happens at the end of a normal school day? Already the child is tired. And then we spend those few hours just focusing on reinforcing math concepts, reinforcing spellings, reinforcing concepts that she was not doing well in school. So then where is the time left for interest? Where is the time left for strengths? But when we began homeschooling, there was obviously a paradigm shift. Math was no longer a score that was on a report card, but rather a tool that was needed for daily life. And it stopped becoming a threat anymore. And so the learning became more comfortable and more enjoyable. And she had a lot of time for her interests and strengths. So she excelled in both Hindustani and Western music. She did additional courses in painting, and she began to slowly pave her path towards her dream, which was social work. And so while other kids were running in and out of school and college, she was at home studying, but volunteering with organizations, doing internships with social organizations, and building up a portfolio that was equipping her to get into this field. So by the time she had to face an interview to get into her degree with a really good college, she was able to answer with confidence. She was able to convince the college that she had something to contribute because she was already exposed to this field. So again, the motivation came from within her, and that was only because she was able to focus on her strengths and not work so hard on her weaknesses. The third reason is quality time with family. I think this is what motivated me as a mother. I just enjoy spending 24 hours of the day with the kids. I'm not on their back. They are not in my lap the whole day. Homeschooling does not work like that. It's not that I have to teach them everything in the subject. It's more that I'm a facilitator, and education happens more on a research basis. So they are exploring the topic, they are exploring the concept, but they come to us if they need any clarifications or if they need a little bit of guidance about how to move forward. And spending quality time became so enjoyable for us because it wasn't just those rushed hours in the morning before running to school or work, and neither was it those tired hours post college or post school that we are spending together as a family. We could do vacations off season. We could, when we go to a mall, it's like a Tuesday morning or a Monday morning when, the mall is nice and empty, the theaters are nice and empty. So these were some of the benefits that we had. And another reason is that we can build values and ethics that matter to our family. Each family is different, has their own code of ethics. own value systems that we would like to instill into our children. And this has been an amazing journey of doing that. We have, we have a certain amount of control over the influences that they have, that they are exposed to as children, whether it's academically, spiritually, or socially. And another thing that I think my kids would really agree with, why homeschooling? There is no concept of homework. Everything is finished during school hours, and very rarely do we even need to study beyond lunch. And so this has been a big motivating factor. So the three reasons: good use of resources, focusing on a child's strengths, and quality time as a family, together with the family. And so this talk was just to give you an idea about the benefits of homeschooling, and also just to say that there is an option of homeschooling. I'm not saying schooling is bad, or I'm not saying anything negative like that, but I am saying if you are considering a change, there is an option. It is a possibility. And if you have any questions about this, you are most welcome to contact me later. I think the organizers will put up my phone number and email address. And over the last 2 years, with the beginning of the pandemic, I was able to start a consultancy just to help families begin this journey and go on their journey. 10 years back when we started, there was a lot of trial and error over the first few years. And the aim of the consultancy is to eliminate that period of trial and error and just help the journey become smoother and more enjoyable. So yeah, that's it for today. And thank you, Davis, for reaching out, and the whole ViGEO team for this opportunity. Congratulations on your 2nd anniversary, and God bless you, and may you go much further. So thank you all for listening.
Pranuti, thank you so much. Why don't you stay on? I just had a couple of questions about homeschooling. I'm sure many of you who are listening have questions. So the first question is this: academically, and you've already hinted at this, you've talked about it a little bit, but people might be concerned if you're not having homework, if you're basically you're done before lunch. How are the children doing academically? And are they being challenged enough? Are they being able to get the kind of education that they need?
Yes, the question of testing comes up a lot with parents. Now, just to let you know, if you think of a classroom setup, you have a minimum of 20-25 children, or you have a maximum of 60 to 80 children that one teacher has to handle. Now, the only way she can assess whether you have moved forward academically, whether you have understood the concept, is by either giving you homework or by giving you a test at the end of the chapter. But here, it's just one child, one parent, one concept. Now, obviously, by the end of that concept, I am 100% or 120% sure that my child has or has not understood the concept. If the child has not understood the concept, we go over it again. But if the child has understood the concept, it's absolutely crystal clear to the parent and to the child. So sometimes these tools of homework and testing just become something we become afraid of, because a larger system has used it, because they have no other choice. But if we come back and look at it very clearly, it is very, very, very clear when it is one child, one parent, that the child has moved forward academically or not. I hope I've answered your question, Rob.
Yes, thank you. I think that's one thing that I know that people can be concerned about. And I know, just as you gave that example of the student who went to IIT and did a wonderful job there, was going to do his master's degree as well. that there are students who really thrive in homeschooling and end up getting great degrees in college and end up getting a great job afterwards. And so that's a great help for many people who don't know what kind of quality education students are getting. And that really, again, and just to add to what you're saying, it depends on the parents. So if parents aren't ready for this, if they're not doing they're not being disciplined and intentional in it, then homeschooling wouldn't be a good option unless the parents are actually going to be involved and actually going to be helping them. That's one of the major assumptions, I think, that we have to say.
Yes.
And this is something that not all parents are able to do. But if parents have that ability and have that interest and are able to help their children, it's an option for them.
Yes.
One other question I'd also ask is, socially, how does this affect kids socially? Because that's always a question. They're not at school with friends and able to interact with people. And a question that people have is this going to make kids awkward? What is this? How does it affect students socially?
Yeah, this is again a question that's asked a lot. And when you actually think of school, when you are in the classroom, there's very minimum interaction with your classmates. Think about it. During the lecture, there is actually, or rather, there's not supposed to be an interaction with your classmates. The amount of interaction you get is at tea break and lunch break and probably post school hours, which is like a few minutes before you catch your bus or whatever. Maximum social interaction comes during your extracurricular activities, comes from your free time. And these are something that are available to homeschooling students. Like I was saying, my kids go for football, or my daughter goes for music, or she's part of a choir, and things like that. So homeschoolers, it's not that they do not have social interaction, but rather they have social interaction that is that we have a choice of. We choose where we want them to interact. We choose who we want them to interact with. So we are not taking away social interaction, but rather we are choosing the kind of social interaction that they get.
Okay, thank you so much, Pranuti. I'm sure if this is a new thing for you who are listening, you might have more questions. So Pranuti, we hope to provide your contact details and enable people to learn more about these things so that they can see what's helpful for them. Just to add some more things to what Pranuti was saying, we just want to be clear again. We are pro-education as a company, and every family is different. And so if you're a parent, you're hearing this, you're thinking, whoa, I could never do that. Well, first I'd say you don't have to. It's about helping your children grow, right? And that's what we want for all students. But we also want to present, hey, this might be an option for those who don't have the access to the education that they want for their children. And just to give an example, my family travels all the time, and so right now I'm not in India, I'm in America, and it would be very difficult for me to give my children who are our students education, quality education, if we're going from place to place. And so homeschooling for my family has worked out. But for other families where you've got a great school that you love, that you trust, that's nearby, that's a great option. That's wonderful. And for most people, that's what it's gonna be like. But thank you, Pranuti, for sharing with us and helping us understand homeschooling better. And especially right now, because of COVID, this has become an option for many families. So thank you so much. Davis is going to come on right now, and he's going to do an announcement for those winners for the blogs and for the posters. So Davis, why don't you come on?
Yes, Yes, Rob, thank you so much. Thank you everyone who's joining. And I just want to make a quick announcement. We had wonderful competitions in the run-up to the second anniversary. We had poster making, we had creative writing, freedom quiz, online treasure hunt. It was a wonderful time preparing all this and to see some amazing participation. So congratulations to everyone who participated. This is the time just announcing the top winners. Again, I'm going to start with the poster making contest. We've got 3 winners, and the first prize goes to Manvi Chawla, second goes to Priscilla Brighton, and third goes to Satyam Saxena. So thank you everyone who participated, but these were the 3 posters we found the best among the lot. The next one was the creative writing contest. We've got the first place for Pragya Tiwari, second for Arna Chopra, and third for Rishika Chawla. Again, we enjoyed reading your work. There were many other close 4th and 5th, but it was a close call, and we really enjoyed reading through your work. The online treasure hunt, it was very fiercely contested. Only 5 could complete it. Some of the questions were hard, but it's Timothy Abraham who finished the 10th question. There were 10 questions, one after the other, but it's Timothy Abraham who finished first. And so congratulations, Timothy. Pavni was close second. She was leading for many of the rounds, but towards the end, it was Timothy. And Sam Daniel Raj at number 3, Rahul Rafi and Renisha Esther in the top 5. Only 5 could complete it, and many were stuck in stage 8 and 9, but the 10th round was completed by 5. We also had the freedom quiz. The winners were announced, but for the sake of clarity, we had a wonderful time of quizzing about the country, and Anya Mehta, Jyotika Minocha, Qureshi Safia, Suchit Das, and Lavanya Agnihotri were the winners in the freedom quiz. So congratulations, everyone. It was a pleasure having you all in this program, and thanks for everyone else who participated. And this was fun. Back to Rob.
Davis, thank you so much. We hope everyone enjoyed doing these different activities this past week. We appreciate you all, and thank you for your effort. It's great to see people continue to grow in creativity, and that's something that I think, just as Pranuti was saying, this is something that I think all of us need to grow in, and all of us want to access in ourselves as well as in students. And so we are excited for you all to continue to grow in your creativity and to show that through what you've done this week. Well, I'm going to go on to our next speaker. Our last speaker today is Ashwini George. Ashwini is the operational lead for Live Jam India. Live Jam's vision is the transformation of urban youth through music, media, and stories. So just as we've been talking about creativity, that's something that is right up her alley. Her focus areas include emotional and mental health, as well as leadership development. She has a passion to connect with young people, and in her free time, loves to skim Spotify and style trends. So to know more, you can go to livejam.org. Ashwini, we're excited to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ViGEO. It's so great to be here, and congratulations on 2 years. Thank you, Rob, for that. Every time I hear that introduction, I end up smiling at the last sentence, because if it weren't for Spotify, I think your days would be a little crazy. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to share my screen. I think this today's conversations have been so enlightening for me also, as I've heard the previous speakers and been able to take some notes as well. So this evening, I'm going to be talking to everyone about what does it mean to be caring for our teenagers. In fact, this is a topic that is close to the heart of the organization that I work with. It's close to my heart as well. I think young people keep us alive. They keep us on our toes, and they keep us creative at all points of time. So in brief, one of the reasons why the organization that I work with, Live Jam, why we do what we do is because we love hanging out, connecting with, and impacting young people. Young people are the pulse of this nation, this beautiful nation of India. And just this morning, I was on a Zoom, and we've heard this sentence so often that the young generation, the young people are the future. The future is now. You look around your cities, you look around your schools, your colleges, you look around, and it is young people everywhere. And it's teenagers everywhere as well. So what does this mean for us as parents, as teachers, as caregivers, older bhaiyas and didis, as we say? What does it mean to really nurture and take care of our young people? So I'm going to go a little further. A little later, I'm going to show a couple of videos, but I'm just going to take us all through some learnings and establish a foundation. So this is the big picture. Now, many of us viewing this today, we're parents, we have 1 or 2 children. There are teachers watching this, they've got 40 in a classroom, little grids everywhere on a Zoom class, or maybe in real time, there's 40, 45. And yet, this is the big picture, that we are looking at in India. This is a census 2011 that overall, for the purposes of this evening's discussion, between age group 10 to 14 years, that's 11% of young people. 11% of India's young people are looking at us to see what the future is going to look like, and for their well-being, their social well-being, their emotional well-being. This is important because I think you can see, the entire, on the right-hand side, there's this picture of a young girl. That is your Gen Z. And for the purposes of this evening's discussion, I'm going to be using the word Gen Z quite a bit. Those born, they're currently aged between 6 to 24. So all those of us who are, who have teenagers on hand, you're right in the thick of it. You're in the best place that you can possibly be. To give a little more further context to this, why should we prioritize this audience today evening? Well, there are statistics up there on the screen. We can all look at it. But essentially to say that 25% of teenagers today, they struggle with hopelessness. 96% are not very religious, but they follow traditions. And yes, 84% agree that their parents' support is present for their study or career choice on the assumption that they work really hard. So this is great, because young India is a very different young India than what all of us grew up in. This is an India that is complex. These young people have access. And yet, if you look at the picture on the right-hand side, this was a Google search that I quickly did just a couple of days ago, and just look at the immediate searches that come up on Google. There's teenagers and social media, COVID, sleep, mental health, technology, drugs, depression. So as much as there is promise, and there's incredible promise for this generation, the Gen Zs, there is also another side to them that we need to, as caregivers, that we need to recognize, and that we need to really harness and nurture them well. Just to quickly move on, this is an article that has come up in Vice India very recently, 10th of May. This is a little while after, in fact, at the peak of the second wave of COVID. And while on the one side, we saw young people, they're at home, they were numb with shock. And these are some of the statistics and these responses that you're going to see on your screen. And yet, there was the other side where young people, the Gen Zs, whether they are in high school or in college, the 18, 19-year-olds, the 17-year-olds saying that, hey, I can't do anything much right now. I'm at home. I'm seeing things going on around me, but I'm still going to use social media to help wherever I can. So that is the interesting dichotomy that we are faced with this evening and amongst our young people. On the one side, there is an acute rise of depression, anxiety, fear, panic. That entire canvas, there is an acute rise of that. And yet on the other side, we have young people who are itching to do something with the tools that they have. And they are putting those tools to good use as well. So really, where does this take us to? Essentially, this is what we're looking at. Yes, parents and teachers are the primary caregivers. Because of lockdown, work from home, school at home, young people, students, teenagers are spending all their time inside the four walls of their house, and a bulk of their time is spent online with teachers, whatever limited interaction they are able to have with their classmates or with their teachers. And yet, for the Indian teenager, the primary caregiver still stays as the parents and the teachers. Then what is the problem that we have? Why is there on the one side hopelessness, worry, anxiety, and yet on the other side there is a fair bit of optimism, a fair bit of push for a better future? There is a connection problem. And that is where the parents and teachers really can, think of ways, and this evening I'd like to talk a little bit about that. Think of ways of how they can enter that conversation better. In brief, our teenagers have multiple choices. Trust me, they can go to Google and they can get ideas, advice, solutions to navigate life and to get and for decisions. Interestingly, they honor parents and they honor teachers, but it's the friend circle. It's the friends who are the guides. It's the friends who are the go-to. There's one of the easiest examples I think of is brands like Airtel. They came up with these amazing marketing campaigns that, about friends that are around us. They are the ones who really hold us together. And interestingly, young people today, they can smell the lack of authenticity. For young people these days, Gen Z especially, authenticity is up there. They care about things like climate change. They care about things like, injustice against women. They care about the big causes of the world. They care about their city streets as well. That is the interesting complexity of this generation. And when they see or they're able to smell the lack of authenticity, they will speak up. And they will give us a hard time. So then the question is, we have before us the challenge. What do we do with this challenge? Before I give the solution, before I present what could be a solution, I'd like to take a few minutes more and just maybe give us some ideas about the audience that we have. The young people, the Gen Z, they are digital nomads and they are digital agents of change. You present them a problem and they will create, if it's something that requires a petition, they will go to change.org and they will create a petition. They know how to use social media, real estate to the best of their ability. They can create a campaign. They can get the conversation rolling about a particular topic. If they are passionate about it, they're going to start the conversation. They can make a game out of something. They can make it exciting. They can make it engaging. They can make it interactive. Now, what does this look like? I thought I would just show some interesting memes, some interesting, ideas over here as we understand this age group, understand Gen Zs. We're familiar with memes. We love memes. It definitely gives us, a laugh every time it comes on WhatsApp or Instagram or Facebook. But these memes have also become something that Gen Z they've become so fluent in that. It's become their language. And I believe this evening, as caregivers, as parents, as teachers, as mentors, it's essential that we understand how did memes become so popular with this generation. This generation is one of the most complex. They are also one of the most creative. They are content creators. I saw a meme a few moments ago saying that I'm no more just an influencer, I'm a content creator. And so this generation, they can create memes. They have a language of sass and irony and sarcasm. Why? To deal or to act as a defense mechanism against what's happening in the world around them. It's very interesting that even as the last 18 months of lockdown have shown us that even though they've been at home, there's been a spurt of creativity. You've seen more indie music come up. You've seen more YouTube channels of young people putting out music or even cooking things at home, and they're putting up all of this on YouTube, on Instagram. It's interesting also that there's a huge increase in the amount of consumption of music. Music has helped young people deal with mental health concerns, when anxiety strikes, when panic or fear strikes. It's music, it's actually audio. So it's interesting, if you look at this statistic in front of us, according to a Spotify 2020 study, 79% of Gen Zs believe that audio is healing. And there's been a massive spike in music and podcast creation and consumption. Some interesting for all the parents and teachers out here, if you're familiar with terms like Olivia Rodrigo, mukbang, BTS, Insta Reels, tell me you're a desi without telling me you're a desi. These are all trending things that young people are, they're talking about, they're doing it, they're putting it up on socials, they're even participating with their friends online. Gamers are a whole community. And the interesting thing is that young people are talking to each other, and they're connecting with a wide global audience, looking to alleviate emotions of loneliness, anxiety, or fear through all these methods and means of communication. I have one more interesting slide. This is, you think that this is, maybe not commenting about the aesthetics of the slide, but would you believe that this is from an Instagram feed, which has pretty much, and each of these images pretty much has like over 1,000, 2,000 likes. That is how popular these memes are. And it's interesting, as caregivers, I think it's important that we take a moment to understand what these memes are actually telling us. If you look at the second row, bottom left, it says, "Father and I have a healthy bond." That speaks volumes about a young person's desire for a good relationship with their parent. And another one, another interesting one is the one on the top row in the center. "I am not wasting my life away." You think, it's a very cliched background. It's got some tea there, and there's some flowers, and there's tranquil waters. But the reality of the young person is that they've been inside the home, and they've not been able to hang out with friends. They've not been able to have those casual conversations on the playground. And yes, it does therefore seem that they are maybe wasting their life away. Similarly, you look at the second row. "I will not blame planets for my toxic behavior." That is such an interesting comment on how they would want to do something about the climate change issue. "I am debating society president." That's such a hilarious take on how so many schools have focused on debating society, the drama society, etc., and how those labels become markers of belonging for young people. And in this day and age, many of those markers are not as real-time available for young people. In which case, then, what are we looking at? We're looking at an opportunity. All right. This is an opportunity presented before us as teachers, as parents. All this that we have seen, whether it's the memes, whether it's the sad music, whether it's the angry music, whether it's the music that has talked about pent-up frustrations, lack of relationships, etc., this presents to us an opportunity that young people, the Gen Zs, our teenagers, they long to belong, right? The intrinsic desire. Couple of things that our organization, as we've done our programs, our sessions, and I have been in conversation with young people, personal conversations that I have had as well. They've just revealed the deep-seated desire of a young person, of a teenager, to belong. Am I safe here? Will my conversation, will what I speak, will it be heard? Will it be judged? Am I safe to say what is on my heart? Will it stay within the confines of this conversation, or is it going to find its way out? Young people, they have an innate desire, an ache to belong. And I believe for many of us adults sitting over here, that still remains an innate desire as well. And they want to experience real, authentic connection to themselves. That's the first connection they are deeply desire. That connection that comes because they are just feeling so adrift in one sense. The things that mark their everyday life, that used to mark their everyday life, that don't really exist anymore. A lot of the world right now is digital. It's hard to go out and meet a friend, to just hang out and chill out. And so they long to have a connection with themselves, with their loved ones, and eventually their purpose. Now, all of this sounds great. But before I go further, I want to tell you a little bit about how it is that, that we have, I wouldn't say we've cracked a formula, but something that really has come out of our years of experience of working with young people, of having conversations with them. First step, really getting down to their level. and beginning to understand that what it is that they want. Very often as teachers or as parents or as mentors, we come to them and say, hey, this is what you need to be doing. Here's the advice I have to give you. And to some extent, it's true. They do need our advice. They do look to us for solutions. But perhaps a different way to begin the conversation with them, and I'll touch upon these a little later as well, will be to say, what can I do for you? A couple of minutes ago, we heard from another speaker, and just the entire sense of giving the young person, giving the learner, giving the student, the teenager, the autonomy to speak up in a conversation and say, hey, I need help. This is the issue I'm facing. This is what, can you help me in this regard? And kind of really beginning an authentic, real conversation from that perspective. Something that we've come to realize is just creatively connecting with young people through music, through art, through even social media, through memes, inviting them into conversations to co-create with us, to just hang out and engage with them, to just spend chill time with them. These are incredible icebreakers, incredible conversation starters with teenagers, especially with teenagers. So where does all of this take us to? Okay, so this is something that I would like to, I would like to present and for all of us to consider this evening. As a parent, as a teacher, as a mentor figure, as an older person in the teenager's life, probably the first thing that we can begin to give them, and this comes free of cost, is that we can give them a safe place to be. That's it. The first thing is that they belong. That no matter how badly they mess up, many of our young people are struggling maybe with issues of pornography, abuse. They're struggling with being left out, loneliness and isolation. And they don't know how to articulate some of these emotional upheavals in their life. Many young people will come to us. They may want to say things like, I'm sad all the time and I don't know why. Questions like, am I capable of being loved? I'm unable to live up to my parents' expectations, and that has ruined my confidence. It's these kind of statements, these heartbreaking statements that have come to us that are there in the hearts of many teenagers. And the first thing that you and we can do as caregivers, parents and teachers, older people, is number one, to give them a safe place to belong. It's interesting. I'd like to say that very often our schooling structures, our family structures, and generally our society structures reverse it. They tell us that you need to believe a certain thing. Once you believe this, the credo, the motto, these ethics, these kind of ways, then you begin to behave accordingly. And then finally, you qualify to belong. You qualify to belong in a particular community, in a particular family, in a particular school or institution. This reverses it. You see, because young people, there's in one sense a fragmentation of identity. So no matter how badly they have messed up, no matter how worried or anxious or uncertain that they feel about the future, the first thing is that we enable them to realize, and we create intentionally a safe place for them to belong. What does that look like? I will talk about that a few minutes later. The next step is to behave. Now, here's the interesting thing. I'd like to say it in one sentence. It's more about what is caught than what is taught. Young people, even older people, I would say, but especially teenagers, because their minds are incredibly, they can pick up things that others are just, adults are sort of immune now to not see or to see. So if you expect them to behave a certain way, if you want them to speak up for injustice, if you want them to be productive, you want them to interact with fellow students, with fellow teenagers, or with fellow family members, or even with teachers in a particular way, then they're going to have to see it demonstrated first. It's not enough if it just comes in a rule book. So when they see it demonstrated, the fact is that they already belong. They know that this is a space created for them, that they're not going to be judged. They're okay, they're safe over there. As they find their place of nurture, their place of nourishment there, they see what's happening around them. They pick up on these amazing behavior patterns that are already being demonstrated. And they're like, hey, okay, so this person's doing this pretty well. Let me also try it out. And they automatically begin to, they begin to copy that. And the third stage is they believe. At this point of time, it's no more just about, that these are a certain code of ethics. This is what you need to understand. This is what you need to believe in. This is the rule book. Here's what you need to understand. No, at this point of time, because they know that they are safe. They've begun to behave a certain way. They're invited to pattern themselves after certain kinds of behavior. Here is where they have an invitation to trust in the thoughts and ideas, in the family, in the school circle, that the teacher is sharing as well, that the teacher demonstrates as well. There is an invitation to trust. When there is an invitation to trust, and they have seen even the people around them, the primary caregivers, being their authentic selves, they are at a place to be able to even replicate those belief systems as well. That is when there is a coherence, if I can put it that way, between what they have seen and therefore behave, and therefore what they are able to believe as well, and perhaps even able to replicate for their peers, for their influence, for the circles of influence that they are in, and even as they go older and as they grow further. So this is kind of the three big ideas, of belong, behave, believe. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, this sounds great, Ashwini. How do we navigate this, right? This is probably the big piece right here. I've given a few ideas, some tips on the how, and I'd love to also tell a couple of minutes in, and I'll tell you a little bit about some things, that amazing content that LiveJam has to offer to help take this conversation forward. But probably one of the first things that teachers and parents can do as they help young people is to listen well. Right? Listening well is crucial. Listening well does not just mean that you make time around, it definitely means that you make time around the dining table, you sit down and have those conversations, but actually you listen not just to reply, but you listen to the teenager in order to understand. You listen to them, you see their dignity, you see beyond the mess of their lives. Whether when your teenager comes to you and says, hey, I'm struggling with anxiety, I'm struggling with fear. The first response is not, I don't think you should be feeling that way. What do you have to worry about? I'm the one dealing with, with the salary issues and all of that. A response like that immediately tells the young person, the teenager, that their concerns are not important enough. Another thing is when you're listening well, you listen to empathize. You really put, the parent or the teacher puts themselves in the shoes of the young person and kind of actually says that, hey, at one point of time, I was a teenager and I probably went through some kind of emotions like this. And can I be the person for this teenager in front of me to come and share their concerns? So really listening well, listening with your eyes and your ears, listening actually not to criticize. And the next thing is the awkward conversations. This is super important. Young people these days, our teenagers, they want to have the difficult conversations. There's this phrase, are you woke enough? And many parents and teachers might think that, do I need to be? Well, here's the interesting thing. If you want your teenager to come to you, for them to know that you're a safe place, that you actually can help guide them on issues and topics that they don't immediately have to go to Google about or to their friends about, then you need to be the one to begin those awkward conversations. So if that means talking about issues of pornography, issues of maybe even, spending too much time on the phone or on front of the laptop, or just watching too much of Netflix time, maybe even conversations about LGBTQ. And if you don't know, then parents or teachers learn, just pick up those resources, pick up those materials, go ahead, learn about them, and then begin that conversation. Trust me, your teen will thank you. It's highly likely that your teenager will go and tell his or her friends that, hey, guess what? I've already had this conversation. It was explained so well. It makes sense now. And if those who are struggling are probably even enabled to be on a path of recovery. Another thing that I keep talking about is to know their lingo, right? There are things like a couple of minutes ago, I used the word, are you woke enough? What does it mean to have FOMO? What does it mean? Why do they talk in hashtags? It's not enough for us just to say that, hey, I'm their parent, I'm their teacher. I don't really need to know. But guess what? When you make the effort to know, you actually understand that they are communicating. And they are communicating what they want, even if it's through sass or slang. And here's the thing, when you get to know their lingo, they begin to figure that, hey, you care. And that actually enables better conversations, better listening as well. Last two pieces is to model the habit. You want them to be better listeners or readers or helpers. Then the big piece is that you need to model it consistently for them. For example, if you say that I wish my teen were to read more, or maybe that they would just listen to different kinds of things, then maybe perhaps you be the first one to pick up a book and sit down and do it consistently. If you're a teacher and you're watching this and you're just thinking my students they just want to pick up their text only when there's an exam coming up or something, maybe a fun thing for you to try would be challenge them to make an Instagram reel about the class, about some topic of their class. And that just brings up their entire creative juices as well, because Gen Z, these teenagers, they are co-creators. They are collaborative learners. For them, it is not just about, it's not just the one-way teaching, it's how they can learn together. And you put it to song, you put it to story, you put it to music. I'm telling you, they're going to be on fire to be able to even talk about what they learn in the classroom as well. If you want them to even help around the house, parents, maybe the simple thing to do would be to say, hey, take them along with you, bring them into the place when you're preparing dinner or you're doing something in a meal, you get them into the kitchen and try out a recipe together. That way you model it, you engage and you invite them into those activities in a fun and creative way. Yes, it takes a little bit of effort, but I believe that these are incredible days that we can actually begin to put some of these things into practice. And coming to the last one, and probably one of the most important ones for the parents and the teachers, is self-care. You're taking a lot of care of young people, and that can definitely tire you, or maybe even drain you emotionally, mentally as well. So the first thing, and oftentimes the most important thing that you would need to do, is really make time for your own self, investing into your own emotional health, investing into your own mental health. When teenagers see you do that, when they see you putting closing your laptops, taking intentional time off from work and saying, I'm just going to just enjoy myself for a bit, I'm just going to relax with the family, they're going to know that, hey, this is because mom, dad, they really care about their own mental and emotional health. And that is one of the most important pieces for young people in India as they get into the next couple of years of their life, knowing that the mental health issue is soon going to be one of the biggest shadow pandemics as a result of the COVID pandemic that we've just come out of. So these are some of the big, broad, tips I've presented this evening. Even as I kind of wrap up, I just want to show a video and to just tell you all about some products that LiveJam has, my organization has, which really are there to kind of take this conversation forward. These are tools for schools and for parents, for teachers and parents, to be able to kickstart a conversation with young people. So give me one moment and I'm just going to go ahead and screen share that video. Okay, so here we go.
Some days the pain's so bad you can't even sing about it. Some days the pain's so bad you can't even talk about it. And if pain is a boat, would you take me home? Take me home.
All right, so that was one video, and I'd love to show one more and call it a wrap for this evening before I just present, the information that ViGEO will also share about how to get in touch with us. But this last video is a bit longer, and this is an incredible tool to be able to actually, for parents and for teachers, in really learning the art of listening well to young people. There are skills and tools that are so useful in this regard. And if you could just go ahead and maybe you could watch this next video for about a minute, you'll be able to see for yourself what that could look like.
Hello and welcome. Have you ever heard any of these statements? Mom, Dad, why don't you ever listen to me? Could you drop me an email or send me a text? I'm sorry, I just don't really have the time to listen to that right. My husband just doesn't listen to me. I'm just so tired. Sounds familiar? We have become a society and culture that are very good at speaking up. And in the course of speaking up, we've begun to listen a little less. Do you know that there are 3 key elements to good listening? This 6-part video series is going to bring you fresh perspective and important skills that you need to become a good listener. You will notice a significant impact in your personal relationships and even in your wider community relationships, whether it is your workplace, your friend circle, or your community. You will learn 3 key steps based on powerful principles of being a good listener, how to overcome hurdles to good listening, and even how to practice these skills in your immediate circle and in your wider circle to minister to those in need. Ready? Let's go. See you in class.
All right, so that brings us to pretty much the end, the close of this segment about just talking about the well-being of young people, of teenagers. There's a lot more I've had in this amount of time. I hope I've been able to present some of the core ideas of why our young people, they respond the way they do, the incredible potential within them, and the amazing work that us as caregivers have for this young generation. Thank you once again, Rob, and thank you to the team as well for giving this opportunity.
Ashwini, thank you so much. That was great. We love the material that you guys have on LiveJam. It looks like there's a lot of resources, so please do go to that website, and if you want to learn more, you can go there. One word that came to mind as you were sharing was ask. Just ask questions. That's what parents can do. And if you're a teenager and you're listening to this and you're thinking, my dad will never ask me those questions, my mom will never ask me those questions, my teacher will never ask me those questions, well, then maybe you can go to them and ask as well, and you can talk to them. And slowly over time, you can talk about these things. And we all have different relationships. And if there's somebody that you need to reach out to, I'm sure Ashwini can show you through the website. The website can help you as you think about how to reach out and build these kinds of relationships where you can talk more and get some of the answers to the questions that are buzzing in your ears. So thank you, Ashwini, for that time. We are coming to the end of this session today, and so Davis is going to come on soon. But we just want to say, as a company, we are thankful for everybody. We as a company are looking forward into the year ahead as we think about trainings. We want to continue to do online trainings. We want to continue to do recorded trainings. We want to continue to do things like we are doing tonight, webinars that will help you to thrive in the workplace and in the world. So Davis is going to quickly share a few of the things that are coming up, and then we're going to do the final live quiz. So Davis, you can take it on.
All right, thanks, Rob. Yes, we are excited about the third year. We are at 2, and this third year is going to be exciting. And here on screen are some of the workshops that are coming up in August and September. We will have a visual designing masterclass. This will be on the basics of designing, especially with a lot of content coming online and need for designing presentations, posters, event posters, and even things for social media. There's a lot of need for good designs, and we at ViGEO have kind of prioritized to make sure that what's coming on screen is aesthetically pleasing and and well designed. So we have a workshop coming up on visual designing. We also have a workshop coming on creative writing with content writing, copywriting, and all these the need for more of power-packed writing and conveying with clarity in brevity. I think that is the key, and that's one of the reasons we conducted the blog writing competition. We had some wonderful time reading and going through the entries, and congratulations again to the winners. So that's coming up, a creative writing workshop on how to come up with ideas, condense your ideas, and present your ideas in a very readable format. We also have lined up a few topics for the Master Teacher series. We had a Teach Online series. We want to start a new series called Master Teacher. This is for educators, and today Dexter just laid a wonderful foundation for how intrinsic motivation can lead to great results, and topics like that will be lined up in that series. We also have something coming up for teenagers. This will be Leadership Essentials for teenagers, and also something for college students, Hireability Masterclass. So this is basically preparing you for the work life ahead, especially as work has completely changed. So right now, every speaker that you join, Dexter from Chennai, Pranuti from Bangalore, Ashwini from Delhi, I'm from Lucknow, and Rob is joining from New Mexico. So 5 of us, 5 different places, yet this is happening. So we need to learn how to work remotely, and that is a new skill of the future. So we have something coming up for college students as well. So as Ashwini was just sharing, I was just thinking maybe we should have a live meme making contest on Zoom with some of our tools that we have, like something like Padlet and all, and just a lot of ideas sparking just as Ashwini was sharing. So excited for third year, and we hope that there will be much more in store in the days to come. So back to you, Rob.
Thank you, Davis. We are calling it a wrap soon. And actually, Davis, you're going to be coming back on and doing this live quiz. So I wanted to conclude our time and say thank you to Ashwini, to Dexter, Pranuti. Thank you so much for your presentations. They're great. And if you want to access those presentations in the future, we will have them on our YouTube page, and you can check that out in the future. And we'll whatever page you came to, we post these kinds of trainings that we do on a regular basis, so you can check that out. You can go on our website and learn more about ViGEO at vigeo.in. We do trainings for all sorts of people, whether you're a student, a teacher, a professional, and you can go and learn more about what we offer on our website. And we also personalize the training. If you